Hi, I'm Lee Barbour, and these two people made me. Maybe on this golf course, I don't know. They look really happy. My mom didn't play or like golf, but my dad did. And these young newlyweds had nothing but time and freedom and insanely fashionable leisure wear. And then I came along. I was born in Iowa, but we moved to Somerville when I was two, and that's where I grew up. Somerville was pretty idyllic for most of my childhood. We had cows and horses in our backyard from the Tupper farm where we bought our milk. It was still a pretty small town, and it looked very different than it does today. Oh, yeah. Let me get my glasses on. This photo really kind of sums up my life. Trained early in classical piano by a mother who was a music teacher with perfect pitch, and later in jazz guitar. Inspired by my dad's early days of playing guitar in a few bands, but both of these things are overshadowed by my breakdancing skills, which may have been my true calling. College is where I started to take music seriously, which meant I was already behind the other music majors. After reading Charlie Parker's autobiography and learning that he practiced about 8 hours a day for 2 years, I figured I could achieve similar results by practicing 4 hours a day for 4 years. I practiced hard enough to get a scholarship, but I still can't play like Charlie Parker. After graduating college, I moved back home to Somerville and waited tables at a Greek restaurant for several months. It paid terribly because I was a terrible waiter, and all I wanted to do was play guitar in bands and wear these pants. Fortunately, a new opportunity presented itself. I started playing with a group called the Gradual Lean at a spot called Mezzanine. Yeah, some of you remember, above Sir Metz on King Street. We'd, we'd sometimes play until 3 in the morning, as the bars didn't close until 4 back then. Quentin was teaching at CFC and recommended me to be the new adjunct guitar professor, so I quit my waiting gig immediately. At 22, I became the youngest professor in the history of the college. It was an incredible opportunity that gave me a lot of visibility in the music scene and also helped me solidify my claim as a professional musician. Here I am playing at the music farm with an up and coming singer named Carrie Ann Hurst. Um, that's right. Another opportunity that came my way through my new position was to meet Joe Beck, a legendary guitarist who played with Miles Davis, James Brown, Paul Simon, and lots of others. He was incredibly complimentary of my playing and suggested we do some touring and record an album. He also suggested I move to New York City to pursue bigger opportunities, and after 6 years at the college, I decided to do that. Unfortunately, Joe died of lung cancer about 2 months before I moved. I'd already rented out my house and told everyone I was moving, so I moved anyway. I'd been a big fish in a small pond, and now I was in the biggest ocean. And instead of having all of Joe's connections and mentorship, I had a friend's hallway to sleep in on the Upper East Side. Things are about to get much harder. This was 2008, and within a few months of being in NYC, the financial crash happened, and I was laid off. I was broke, without opportunity, and cold. In the midst of my growing depression, I found the ray of sunshine who had become the love of my life, visiting her family at a ping pong bar somewhere on the Lower West Side. Our wedding was so epic. Cuban band played. My dad played a song he wrote for us. I played a song I wrote for Vicky. We had a friend do some stand-up comedy. We broke liquor bottles on the floor, lit the alcohol on fire in a circle, and Vicky danced inside of it. And instead of a first dance, we had our first game of ping pong as husband and wife. And if I had 20 more minutes, I'd tell you more about ping pong, but I don't. So now, here I was, a married man, recovering financially and spiritually from my NYC stint. It was time to start a business. So I started a composing/licensing company called Avant Garage that generated almost zero income for a couple years. I did, however, get to score a feature film, an animated short, and a TV pilot, and I learned a lot about composing. With all the childless time in the world, Vicky and I, along with a small group of concerned citizens, took the opportunity to create a low-power FM radio station. It was and continues to be a tremendous amount of work, mostly shouldered by Vicky. It was around this time that our lives took an extremely cute turn. Like most people, I was completely unprepared for what it meant to be a first-time parent. The long hours in the studio, late-night gigs, touring aspirations, and sleep schedule all had to be redefined under this new format. The level of time and care seemed relentless, and it now seemed that music, which had always been the main recipient of my time, was now taking a backseat with a car seat. Once we learned we were going to be parents, I decided that I'd make a concept album based around the pregnancy and birth of our son. I recorded ambiances from around our house, from travels, stories from my dad and mentor. I even recorded 3 hours of the birth and made it into a 4-minute track. It's quite possibly the only live birth track on Spotify. It took 2 years to make, but it's still my favorite thing I've ever made. It's called Ultrasound. Um, Couple years into the new dad life, I was asked to do a tour with a group called Jazz's Fish. It's a rotating cast of jazz musicians playing instrumental arrangements of Fish tunes. I was a huge Fish fan in high school and then left to study jazz, so it felt like a real full circle moment for me. So we made another baby. Some years later, Rhea Matzis Barbour joined us, and this time I decided I need to have a business that, like, for real, started making some money. Um, with two kids, two elderly cats, and 900 square feet of living space, we were bursting at the seams, and I was already pretty down about the increased devaluing of music and musicians and wondered how I could change that. The answer was right under my nose. I already had the musical connections. I just needed to organize my business so that when I couldn't play a gig, I could give the work to my friends and still make an agency fee just for handling admin. Black Label is a boutique agency that specializes in jazz and R&B. In this model, we play music that we love for clients who value the music enough to pay a fair price for it. In the background of all of this was me becoming my dad's power of attorney and taking over his life and care as his dementia has increased over the past 4 years. He was a Marine in Vietnam and saw some terrible things that he still carries to this day. Fortunately, he wrote a book about his experiences and in war and trying to live a normal life while living with severe PTSD for over 50 years. Um, that brings us to now, where I've fallen in love with film music once again. I really want to score movies and television like I tried to do with Avant Garage. But now, with my booking agency and the life lessons I've learned from my wife and children and caring for my dad, I feel that I'm more prepared, more resilient, and ultimately more unstoppable in moving into the next chapter of my life. Thank you very much.